Well, here we are again. Good to have you along with us 20 minutes after the top of the hour. I am Bill Martinez, and with us is Stephen Tryon. He's a senior vice president at internet retailer Overstock.com with responsibility for human resources and international business. He has over 21 years of service as an American soldier, and we thank you for your service. At the end of his Army career, he served as a legislative fellow for Senator Max Cleland in Congress and as the legislative assistant to the senior general at Army headquarters in the Pentagon. Stephen, how you doing?
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be on. I'm doing terrific.
Hey, great to have you on, especially to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is accountability citizenship. We've been saying on the show the three most powerful words in our U.S. Constitution is we the people. There is a lot in those three words that people need to get a grasp of. And if things are going to change and America get back on track, 7 out of 10 of Americans say that we're on the wrong track, then it is going to come by way of citizenship involvement, accountability, and responsibility.
Bill, you're absolutely right, and that's the reason I wrote Accountability Citizenship. You know, the Constitution gives us a lot of power. And I think that if you look at voting trends since about 1972, and a lot of things happened then, including the beginning of the information age, really, in terms of the deregulation of cable and the expansion of opportunities like the personal computer and other things as you march down that timeline from 1972 to today. But you know, we see a decrease in the percentage of our population and the numbers of people who are voting. And in particular, it's more rapid in the purely congressional elections, what they call the off-cycle elections, where the president isn't running. Right. I believe that reflects that we've kind of lost sight of the fact that the founders really intended our primary way of steering the country to be through Congress.
Well, when you have so many people not participating, according to the recent statistics, only 46% of voting age residents voted in all 6 federal elections alone since the year 2000. We have less and less people involved in the process here.
Well, and again, the real danger to me is if we lose sight of the fact that it's the Congress that's our main avenue, because we get to vote for the Congress every 2 years, as opposed to being able to vote for the president every 4 years, and 1/3 of the Senate plus the entire House of Representatives. That's 87% of Congress that comes up for election every 2 years. In November of 2014, Bill, if we all wanted to and we all voted against the incumbents, we could replace 87% of Congress. That's the power of the Constitution. Wow. And I'll tell you something. That's why when 54% of the American people come out very strongly and communicate to their members of Congress that they don't support a military strike into Syria at this time, that's why we see the government react. And I'm very proud of our government. I'm very proud of our president, and I'm very proud of our Congress for everything that they've done here over the last few weeks, because I think we've led the world to a better place. 2 weeks ago, our major allies even were basically hands off. They refused to use military force, and they weren't really doing much. And now with U.S. leadership, we've got a diplomatic opportunity, but we've also got our allies back engaged in that dialogue with the potential that they would help us with whatever we have to do down the road.
Right. Well, being a West Point graduate, I'm sure you have your opinion and your consideration about some of the military strategy or lack that's involved here. But I like you am excited that the Voice of America is coming out real clear and is engaging this situation, because this is all part of the process. I mean, if things are going to get back on track, then it's up to we the people. I mean, the Constitution was set up to where the people are the ones that are in charge, not the other way around. And even though, yes, we can be proud of our government and aspects of it, there's certainly, some issues here that, require that we the people get involved.
Bill, you're absolutely right. I start the book Accountability Citizenship with the example of Sarbanes-Oxley,
right.
Of course, in reaction to some horrible abuses of power in the corporate ranks. Then it was the voice of the American people who were feeling the pain from those abuses that made Congress react, and Congress did react. And I close the book with a discussion of the fiscal cliff, what happened here at the beginning of this year, at the end of last year. And again, there was this discussion of will Americans support a tax increase or not support a tax increase. Well, Americans came out and they said they were willing to support a certain level of tax increase anyway. And it was the participation of the American people that laid the ground for that compromise. Mm-hmm. And in my position, and I oppose the use of force at this time in Syria, but in my editorial recently that I had published, the part of the reason why I oppose it is because I think that it's not the most effective thing we can do right now. Mm-hmm. I think the example of a government responding to the will of the American people is far more powerful as a force in the world than any missiles we could send into Syria right now. Bashar Assad isn't afraid of us destroying a number of his helicopters, and the Russians have already told him that they'd replace those. But what the Bashar Assads and the Vladimir Putins are afraid of is, all the people in the world that wake up every morning and scratch their head and say, the American government does what the American people tell it to do. Right. I want to live in a country like that. Mm-hmm. That's what the dictators and the bullies of the world are really afraid of, and that's what they should be afraid of.
Yeah, it is that that two-letter phrase that is driving some people nuts, including President Putin. And I was pleasantly surprised and, pleased to hear the president admit, American exceptionalism. And Putin took exception to that, but he misses the point.
Yeah, well, I think he chooses to at least publicly miss the point. But, what I learned as a soldier is there are 4 elements of national power. One of those is military. The others are diplomatic power, informational power, and economic power. And what I like about what's happening now in Syria is the president put us in a good position. He didn't have to go to Congress, but by going to Congress, he brought to the forefront this American freedom. He brought into play the most powerful elements of our national power, and that is we do freedom better than anybody in the world.
That's true. Exactly. Well, Stephen Tryon is with us. He's a graduate from West Point, has his master's in philosophy from Stanford University, and his book, Accountability Citizenship, is what we're talking about. We got more with Stephen coming up after the break. Welcome back, America. 27 before the top of the hour. Former U.S. Senator Max Cleland said this book is about us, not them. Ben Franklin was right. We have a republic if we can keep it. If we're accountable citizens, we can keep it. And we're talking accountability citizenship. Stephen Tryon is with us. Stephen is a military veteran, author of this new book, and former fellow in the office of Senator Max Cleland. And, the great takeaway, I know there's a lot of debate, who's right, who's wrong, all these things that are going on regarding Syria. But the big takeaway, Stephen, is the fact that America is engaging on this issue.
That's absolutely right. And that's the most important thing. I like to say it's not the republic of me or the republic of you. It's the republic of all of us.
Yes.
And it only works right when we all participate and lend our voice to our elected officials, in particular to our member in the House of Representatives and to our 2 senators. And for most of us in America, with a nod to my friends who live in the District of Columbia, we pretty much all have 2 senators and a representative. And we should use those people as our primary conduit. One of the things that I advocate in the book is for every American to identify their top priorities. And for me, my top priority is transparency with our congressional delegation. The Wall Street Journal reported about a month ago that public disapproval rating of Congress is at an all-time high of 83%. And if you remember what I said a few minutes ago, we get the chance every 2 years to replace 87% of Congress. So I think that we have the power to make Congress a lot more effective and a lot better. And really, we have no one to blame but ourselves if we have an 83% dissatisfaction rate with Congress.
Well, they say in a democracy, people, the citizens get the elected officials that they deserve.
Well, that's true. And what I say, again, my priority is transparency with Congress. I have 2 specific and measurable objectives. And I run human resources for Overstock.com, and so in human resources, we manage the performance appraisal system, performance management systems. And probably a lot of your listeners, we go to work, we all get measured on some kind of a performance management system. Well, our public servants ought to be measured that way as well. And it's up to each of us to create the scorecard, our personal scorecard, for our members of Congress. And for me, transparency translates into 2 specific measurable things. One is I want every member of Congress to take the political courage test from votesmart.org. It's a nonpartisan site. It's a wonderfully comprehensive test. The political courage test used to be, 20 years ago, 78% of Congress had taken that test as a matter of course. It was considered the thing to do. In this last election, less than 20% are taking it. And the reason now is it's become conventional wisdom, if you will, that taking a stand on the political courage test is not worth the risk. Well, I think that's a problem. And I think the first specific measurable objective that I have is that I want all my representatives to take that political courage test. The second thing that I want them to do to increase transparency is I want them to bring their websites into the 21st century. If you go up onto the Congressional, your member of the House or your senator's websites, you'll find that they're basically 1990s technology. They're electronic bulletin boards, one-way communication. And what we need to do to re-engage with the American people is we need to make those things reflective of the same kind of technology that we have with our banks. You and I can sign on to our banks electronically and handle the most sensitive transactions we have with our money. There's no reason why you can't sign on to your member of Congress's website with your voter registration number and a password, and then that allows you to input your views on the top issues of the day to that member of Congress. And in exchange for that, you get back a picture of what the other people in his district or in his state are saying.
Exactly.
So now we have a dialogue.
Right.
And, you're going to engage an awful lot more younger voters with that kind of an online experience than you will with some of the more traditional things that we see.
Yeah, then you don't have to wait for an occasional town hall to pick up, and that's a great idea. I am surprised about votesmart.org but it doesn't. I say I'm surprised on one hand. Maybe the better word is disappointed, but that seems to be the order of the day. I have a good friend here in the West who runs electionforum.org. It deals on national topics, federal, the main national topics in terms of voting vetting, and but particularly here in California, and it was something I wish that we had across the country. But he finds it very, very difficult to get questions answered to where they can quantify these candidates, and particularly when it comes to judges, because judges, Stephen, they found out that, hey, on the basis of, hey, I may possibly deal with that case, I can't give you information in advance. I mean, they have a shield all about them, and you're voting blind for some of these judges, not even knowing how they're going to react on certain topics.
Yeah, I believe that transparency would be good throughout the ranks of our elected officials. In particular, though, I focus on Congress, on our members of Congress, and the proposition that I have going into the 2014 election, and in fact for any election in the future, is that I will not vote for any incumbent for Congress, be it a senator or a representative, unless they have, one, taken the Vote Smart political courage test, and two, changed their website to start to bring in some of these 21st century technologies that I've been talking about. And if we all did that, we could make that change. And the reason why accountability and transparency is my first priority is because I believe that's what in the military we would call the high ground. Once we take that transparency and accountability back, we'll be able to more easily accomplish other things, other reforms that we want to drive through.
Right. And it's got to be more than words. I mean, we have, I hate to, keep bringing this up, but, unfortunately we have an administration that's talked about transparency and they've been the least transparent. And so that's why I don't want people to, kind of go, oh, well, another word that they won't follow through on. But I agree with you. And notice that, I want you to take note that, you've got a disciple with you on accountability and transparency. I think that's wisdom, Stephen, that we need to begin to do something. And it's up to we, the people, to take a stand. And if we break it down simply and just insist on those two things, accountability, transparency, and updated information services from our congressmen and our legislative representatives, we can start to change some things here.
Well, I'm putting my money where my mouth is here. This is more than about selling books for me. If you go up to my Facebook page, Accountability Citizenship, the Facebook page, you'll see a picture of a coffee mug up there that's got the Accountability Citizenship logo on it on one side, and on the other side it has the phrase, I am accountable. It's a beautiful coffee mug. And I'm giving away 5 of those mugs every week from now until November 2014. And in order to put yourself in the running to get one of those mugs, all you have to do is send me the letters that you've written to your senators and your representative, telling them that you support, that you won't vote for them unless they support, they take the political courage test and they reform their websites. So if you guys will join me with that objective, then every week you'll be entered into an opportunity to win a little bit of swag from accountability.
Hey, why? Absolutely. And Stephen, we'll link this on our website, BillMartinezLive.com. So that way, the voters that are listening here can engage and, get a little bit of swag, like you say, a little extra bonus. Why not? And, of course, your book, Accountability Citizenship, will be linked on our website as well. Stephen Tryon has been our guest, Senior Vice President of Internet Retailer, Overstock.com. And worked with former U.S. Senator Max Cleland. Thank you so much for being with us, Stephen.